Welcome to Rockstar Doctor Life. I'm Melissa Longo. As a chiropractor, I believe we have the profound ability to impact our communities and people's health on a global level, while also enjoying rich and rewarding personal lives and giving attention to the things that matter to us. Each week, you'll hear an inspiring conversation to give you ideas and insights to rock your practice, pursue your passions, find more connection and meaning in your life, and create a life and business that works for you. Hey there, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Rockstar Doctor Life. Hopefully by now you've recognized that one of the purposes of the show is to remind you that there are many ways to build a career within chiropractic and build the kind of legacy that you want to leave, and also do a lot of the things that you love and spend time with your family. And today my guest is doing just that, although he's not currently in active practice. He's helping docs build an online presence. So that means building podcasts, digital programs, and even creating entire businesses outside of their practice. I've been interviewed by him a few times, so I am really excited to be putting him on the spot today. Welcome, Dr. Ed Osburn.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited.
So we love to start the show with a quick sort of synopsis about who are you, what are you doing these days, for the folks that don't know what you're up to.
Okay, so who am I? Well, like you said, I'm Dr. Ed Osburn. What am I doing these days? So I guess. You know, in a sentence, I help or I liberate chiropractors from their practice. So one of the biggest problems that I've seen, and just out of survival and necessity of what I've created inside of my own business and my own life, is that doctors typically have two challenges. It can be time. So they spend a lot of time in their practice because they're the catalyzing agent in their business, often, and money. Right, so they're exchanging time for money. And actually, this is Dr. Melissa. This is like a common problem, not just with chiropractors, but with pretty much all health professionals. Mm-hmm. So what I'm doing lately is I'm really just helping doctors create a business that serves their highest values, which is that they want more time, yet they don't want to compromise their income. Mm-hmm.
And I've certainly benefited from that. I mean, I launched, this is the evolution of my second podcast, which, you know, through your trainings and the stuff that you're doing, I was able to successfully do. But let's go back to, like, how did you start this line of work for yourself, and why? What was the trigger for it?
So do you want the long story or the short story?
Maybe the short story.
So back in 2009, I was diagnosed with severe Crohn's. So I assume it's all docs. I don't need to tell you what Crohn's is. And it was bad. Like it was a bad situation all around. So, you know, personally, you know, certainly with my health, it affected my practice. It affected my ability to practice. Everyone was shocked, of course, because, you know, I was running ultramarathons at the time, and we just really couldn't figure out why I was so tired. So from that, moving forward from there, you know, 2 years later, still trying to battle with trying to get that under control, I finally had to have emergency surgery, and then just couldn't really get back into my practice at the same capacity that I had before. We had a smoke and busy practice, like family pediatric practice. And when I could no longer practice, doc, I really kind of lost a sense of who I was. And because I always defined myself as a chiropractor. I mean, I lived and breathed chiropractic. So my solution was I started listening to this podcast, and it was John Lee Dumas, the Entrepreneur on Fire. And I'm like, man, you know, this can't be that hard to do. And at the time, there weren't a lot of podcasts for chiropractors. So I'm like, okay, well, what if I created my own podcast for chiropractors? And it was really out of a sense of, like, number one, I wanted to just help give back to the profession. Number two is I wanted to just continue to be part of the profession because I felt like I was really displaced. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where everything began. I started my own podcast. Doctors started coming to me saying, hey, how do I create a podcast? And that was the first online course that I actually created.
And so basically you had to reinvent yourself, right? You had to create for yourself a new role. And, you know, for docs listening who may be facing the same thing and for different reasons, maybe it's their health, maybe their family dynamics are changing, maybe their kids are growing up, or they're not satisfied with what they're having in practice, and they need to make a change. Where would you say that they should start? I mean, was it something that you just had within yourself, your own determination? Was there a certain, you know, mentor or someone that guided you? Because a lot of docs face challenges, right? And you were able to successfully reinvent yourself and completely rebuild a whole new business that's thriving.
I think it just really starts with getting clear on what you want. So, you know, if you could sit down and you could design your perfect day, what would that look like? Like you wake up, your feet hit the floor. What would your day look like as it unfolds throughout the day? And so I guess if I could say in one word, it's just get clarity. Like, what would you like to design? Not all people, like not everyone who's listening to this wants to create a podcast. Maybe they want to write blogs. Like, who knows? But maybe they don't want to have an online business. Maybe they do. It's just all about getting clarity. That's the first step of like just finding out like exactly what is it that you want. But most people don't take that one simple first step, which is just to sit down or write it down of like, what is your dream? Like, do it right now, Doc, whoever's listening. Sit down and write it, like literally, when the moment you get up, just the entire day, what would your dream day look like? And then go out and actually create it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really an important for several reasons. One is it's bringing to mind a program that we're just doing within the Rock to Doctor Life community, which I will drop some links to, listeners, for those of you interested. But I'm also remembering that when we were at the conference that the Warners put on, the Genesis, and we were talking about podcasts, you and myself and Josh Hand. And I think you and I disagreed on this point because, you said earlier, don't do an online presence if you don't want to. Like, get clear on who you are and what you want. Because I don't think everyone should do a podcast, and I don't think everyone should do videos. And I think you said no, everyone should do it because I don't think everyone's skills are the same.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'll just clarify because I would agree. In some instances, because it is a skill set, right? I mean, it's something that can be taught.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have any particular talent. I've just done, I've done a lot more of it than everyone else. So I'm like probably at 350 recordings. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you get better as you go. But I remember the first 10 episodes that I did. So Dr. Melissa, I remember like literally apologizing to guests, like going, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." It was
because you're Canadian too, I think, right?
I just felt it was so bad. And, they were so gracious. And, here's the other part of podcasting is you have to think about, look, I've done 350 episodes or interviews with people who are very successful, who have experienced tons of challenges. It's almost like I've had 350 hours of free coaching and mentoring. Mm-hmm. So how could I not, have expansion in my life and business when I have all of that time that you normally wouldn't get that time with those people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel the same way. And I know there's been times in my practice where I've been feeling things are a little sluggish or a little slow, or I just feel maybe even a bit stuck. And then I would have like 2 weeks of, 10 different interviews for the show. And I just get totally lit up and think, this is amazing. I just had these great conversations with amazing chiropractors, and I've learned something, and everyone else gets to listen to it too. So that's a really great point. So just so we can get clear, because some docs listening will know they're your clients and, or they're other clients and they're doing other things. They know what online business means. But can you just maybe talk us through, like, what would that look like for the average doc? Like, what does online product and programs mean?
Well, I always teach from experience. So the best thing I can do is give you an example of what another doctor's doing. And this is one that could be really relevant to pretty much any doctor who's listening right now. So I won't name the doc, but we have a doc who has a ketogenic program. I'll call it ketogenic or a keto program. And what he does is he uses that program, which is an online digital course that he's created through a software called ClickFunnels, which was created by, Russell Brunson. If you don't know who that is, just kind of Google him. Mm-hmm. And so what this doctor has done is he's created an online program. He promotes it via Facebook and LinkedIn. And he brings people to a live event every 6 weeks inside of his practice. He presents the presentation that he has for his program, and then he actually sells the program to them. So I think he sells the program for like $300. Mm-hmm. So he usually has anywhere from 50 to 60% of the room will actually purchase the online course, and it's a 6-week course. But also 50% of the room will book as a new patient. So he uses it as a new patient attraction, right? Mm-hmm. So for new clients, but he also uses it as a way that he can actually give added value to those people that are coming. But also it's I think he said, he probably does like $3,000 to $4,000 in sales every 6 weeks with that program, which is, it may not sound like a lot of money to some doctors, but, at the end of the year, that's a great added, value to your practice, and it's great income, and it's actually very low overhead. It's not like when you have supplements that are sitting on the shelf. So I hope that helps in kind of answering your question. Is that's kind of what we're helping doctors get clear on, is like, how can they create something that people can invest in that's not going to necessarily take their time, but they can still earn money.
I think it's an efficiency thing too, right? When I think of the programs that I've run in the office, and sometimes they're just set up through email campaigns, right? Or they'll be set up through a private Facebook group for the practice, and in exchange for, for money in the practice. And it's an efficiency thing for me too, because I know that, so many of us docs have the same conversation over and over again, maybe about stretching or something else people could be doing to get better results with chiropractic, or food or stress or sleep. And if you could package that in some way and even add it to your care or charge people for the program, you're saving yourself time and repetition too.
Yeah, here's a task for everyone listening. Literally sit down, doc, and make a list of everything you do in your office. And then what you're going to do is you're going to actually put a check mark next to everything on that list that you could actually do digital content for instead. So like those exercises you mentioned, if instead of demonstrating them in the office or doing a specific workshop, anything that you can record and get time back, make a list. It's the same thing that we do whenever we have an assistant, right? It's like, okay, make a list of what must the doctor do versus what can we actually delegate out. It's the same process.
Yeah, and I think my own experience with my practice, it's been amazing, because people are getting consistent results, but they're also getting consistent information. And I think, back in the day, or, we try to have even still today, we want to talk about health, results in the practice here with people and give them added value when they're here, whether it's about chiropractic or something else. So now if you can be sure that they're getting it in a digital format, you're covering all your bases that way too.
Absolutely.
So if this is, this all sounds dreamy, right? And I'm loving the fact that I've been able to integrate different online programs within my practice. But for the docs listening that might be thinking, oh, geez, I don't have enough time, or what would be some of the barriers that you're hearing from docs that maybe have done a webinar with you or done some kind of program with you, but haven't really gotten started or haven't really turned it into anything really valuable?
The biggest barrier is, so there's two people that I meet that are docs, right? There's docs who have more time than money, so they have the time to actually build this stuff. And then there's docs who have more money than time, and they can actually just pay someone, or we can have assistants build it for them. So that kind of removes that obstacle. Everyone can actually do this. Okay, there's no question in my mind. However, this is the biggest obstacle. Everyone is probably thinking this right now. Well, like you said, it sounds really dreamy, Ed, but what do I create? That's the biggest thing, is the people sit there and just they'll do the mental gymnastics of like, yeah, this sounds amazing, but what is it that I actually can do? So I created a program. I'm not pitching my program, but I created a program. It's an actual system where it's 13 specific steps that if you follow these 13 steps, you will have what we call radical clarity. So you'll know exactly what your genius is, what you will create, the problem that you're solving, and the system that you build around it. And it works because we've had, 600 doctors do it now. So it's very clear.
So the biggest barrier is clarity with regards to what the next steps would be, or the order of what things should happen.
It's actually even more simple than that. It's just like, what do I do?
Right.
Do I do a ketogenic program? Do I sell a cholesterol busting drug? Or sorry, not a drug, like a supplement. Like, what is it that I do? Do I sell a book? Like, there's so many things that doctors just don't know. They just have no clarity on what to create.
Do you think docs are deterred by the technical aspect of it?
Yeah, but they shouldn't be. Because actually the how is the easy part. The how is the easy part. The what,
okay, says the guy who does this every day, right? And has a team of people who help you do it every day. I don't even produce my own podcasts, so.
I know, but I could teach you how to create an opt-in form in probably 30 minutes. Like it's the how is really easy. I can create a video tutorial walkthrough of how to create an order form for someone to pay you. And any doctor listening to this right now could do that in probably 30 to 45 minutes in a ClickFunnels. Mm-hmm. It's not like it was 3 years ago when I started doing this, and you had to know HTML and all these different things. And it was tough back then. Just trying to get a merchant set up took me like 3 weeks, I think. You can have a merchant set up in 2 hours now. Mm-hmm. simple stuff. The how is simple. And like I said, some like we can pay someone to do that for you too, or you can learn how to do it yourself.
Mm-hmm. So if you're even observing, you having this business for the last few years, and you're observing the changes in technology, are you of the opinion that, you know, an online presence and doing this kind of work is something that all chiropractors need to be doing moving forward because it's the way that the world is going?
Partly, but also I believe, I believe as our profession, I've said this many times, I feel we are marginalized. And so I would love to see that everyone who goes to Google, goes to YouTube, goes to iTunes, and whenever they search a specific topic where they want information, they have no other option but to listen to a podcast from a chiropractor, watch a video on YouTube from a chiropractor, go to Facebook, and they all just, everything is basically chiropractic profession driven. And I feel that strongly that's, how we're going to become mainstream versus marginalized. So
you think this is not only something that docs should be doing for their own benefit, but for us as a profession to be gaining more credibility. And that's certainly something we can always use, it seems.
Yeah, stop. I mean, many doctors ask the wrong questions, and the real question should be is how can I grow the profession and give value to the world, and all the other stuff about what do I create and how do I create, all that stuff will, that's the easy part after that. But it's like what can I give? Like even with my podcast, when I created my podcast, it was all about just I wanted to give back, and I think doctors just I would love, that would be our mission, is to have doctors creating more value and content for the world.
Mm-hmm. Now you've talked about, the clarity in what you want to create being the biggest barrier, and that's the step that holds a lot of people up. Is there an exercise that you give your clients to get them started thinking in that way? Like, is there one tip you can give listeners? So before they want to jump in and start a podcast or create a program, how do they get clear on what they want to do first?
I think, there's actually a couple exercises you can do, but the easiest one is just look at the presentations and what you're doing and teaching in the community already. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're right now booking talks in a very specific topic, or you're very passionate or fired up about a specific topic, and I'm not just saying chiropractic in general, then that may be the what for you. There is another exercise you can do, which is basically, we have our members do an exercise of
good shit, bad shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I didn't know if I could swear.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
The good shit, bad shit list. So it's like you look at your life and you reflect, okay, what was the bad shit that's happened to me in my life that I learned something from and that I can impart some lessons and value to others? What are the truly amazing things that have happened in my life? And trust me, when you do this list and you're very real about it and you take 2 to 3 days and you really marinate on it, your genius will start to surface. Mm-hmm.
So you're pretty engaged in with chiropractors right now, right? Like you're fired up passionate about chiropractic and changing us from being, marginalized to being so much more mainstream and all that. What keeps you focused and inspired about chiropractic?
And it's kind of like, what was the Godfather thing? It's like every time I try to get in, they pull me back. It's kind of like that. Because I've had several coaches and mentors who were just said, look, expand. You should work with dentists. You should work with psychologists. But honestly, chiropractors, chiropractic profession, they're my people. And I've kind of just I've just accepted that. And this is where I'm going to create my legacy. I think that's what drives me, is that I know that this is a legacy, that what I'm creating, I mean, even through my podcast, which was one of the first podcasts that we, had for the profession, that's a legacy. Mm-hmm. And that's why I do it.
So your inspiration just comes from within, the drive for you to create something that's long lasting after you're gone.
Yeah, or for my boys, or
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you think that you define success for yourself differently now? That you're not in active practice, or do you have different metrics now that you look at with your life?
Yeah, I used to define success by how many people I saw a week. Mm-hmm. Like that's changed.
Mm-hmm. A lot of docs do that still, but we're trying to change that through the show and get people thinking about their life as a whole and the quality of their health and their relationships and how much time they spend with their family and and make sure that they're looking at themselves as a human being and not just a doc.
So to kind of answer your question, I mean, it's just more this is personality driven, right? I mean, so my personality was I would go out and run an ultra marathon and I would finish it, then I would sign up for the next race. When I was in practice, I would hit a certain metric, 600 visits, great. So now I guess I need to see 700 a week. So it was never like I allowed myself to celebrate. And then, when I moved into online business, it was like I would have, certain specific metrics based on the mentors and coaches that I have here too. And a lot of those can be monetary based, right? Because you have to pick something, right? Like as a goal, as an outcome. Mm-hmm. So here's what's changed is I really don't care about any of those things anymore. What fills me up now is when I see doctors who are helping other people, who are, are interviewing and becoming influencers like yourself in our profession, and inspiring other people. That's what fills me up now. Just the metric of how I see success has completely changed.
Mm. If there was one thing that you wanted all chiropractors to know right now, what would that be?
Ooh, wow.
We're going to wrap up here, so I thought I'd give you a really easy question to finish up here.
So something that all doctors should know, is that the question? Or they should...
Like if there was one piece of advice you would want to give to all chiropractors listening right now, whether they're new grads or seasoned in practice or not in practice right now, what would that be?
Okay, so there's two things then. Number one is get a mentor.
Right.
Like have a mentor. This can be an or, be inside of a group of people that are like a group of mentors or, support. So like, we have our inner circle for for our laptop lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Like you have to surround yourself with people who will lift you up. I mean, that's...
No doubt. People are the not the secret ingredient, but they're the real ingredient. I think you can work with, lots of programs or read books, but if you don't have a connection with other people who can see you and can help you when you're in having a tough time or just keep you inspired, I'm in 100% agreement there. If I think of all the best resources in my life, they're not things, they're people.
You can't do it in isolation. Mm-hmm. You can't. And that was part of the purpose of the podcast when I started, it was like, and that was our motto and it still is like we are all more alike than we are different. Is that, a lot of doctors feel isolated in their practice, or they feel like they're the only ones who aren't, seeing high numbers or whatever it is they judge as success. Mm-hmm. And so, if you were in a group of people that were actually real and actually supporting you, imagine the possibilities and what you could create in the next year in 2019. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important when we're on the topic of mentorship and groups, like to look at, the different needs that you have in your life. So you might want to be in part of a group or have a mentor that helps you specifically with business strategies. And then you might want to have someone that is more clinical, or maybe you're in pediatrics or sports care, and you might want to have someone that's for online. Like, I think it's completely okay and sometimes really, really important to have mentors in different areas of your business life and your personal life.
Yes, I have two mentors, and I just immerse myself with those two. Mm-hmm. And then there's no other so people will ask me if I've watched this course, or if I follow this person, or do I know this person? And I'm like, no, like I have two people, and I immerse myself in what they teach. And then when I've had my fill and I feel like it's the next mentor, then I move on to the next person. And that is how I've been able. So like I'll give you an example. Like I started with John's program. I joined his elite crew after that. Which is no longer available. Then I went to another mentor, and then basically all the way up to inner circle with Russell Brunson. Mm-hmm.
Great advice and great tips today. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy guy, so I want you to know that I appreciate you taking the time to share with our listeners your insights and your ideas, and we'll be sure to drop in all kinds of links to Dr. Ed's programs and how to reach him. And again, appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you. This has been fun.
Thanks for being here today. If you like this show, please share it with another chiropractor and connect them with this message. We are always better off together than we are alone. If you haven't yet subscribed, head on over to Apple Podcasts or iTunes, and don't forget to rate and review the show while you're there. Be sure to connect with me on Instagram and Facebook, and find out more about today's guests and all things Rockstar Doctor Life by clicking in those show notes. See you next time.